I want to mention a fourth Ramei Simcha. And this one is a dot longer. But it's classic, Ben Benoishel classic. And this Meshech Chachma is in Parshas Boy. It's Perik Yud Beis Pasuk Zayin. The Pasuk says, Va'amartem zevach pesach hu Lashem. Ramei Simcha makes a diuk, and that is that the Torah mentions twice this idea that the carbon pesach should be Lashem. It mentions it in Perik Yud Beis Pasuk Yud Aleph. V'achaltem oisa b'chipazoin pesach hu Lashem. And then it says it again in Pasuk Chav Zayin. Va'amartem zevach pesach hu Lashem. Ramei Simcha, why is it that the first time it mentioned that the achil of the carbon pesach should be Lashem, and the second time it says va'amartem zevach pesach Lashem means the zvicha throughout Kachim that the shchita should be Lashem. It's two psukim in the same parak in Parshas Boy. One time the dogush is on the achila, the second time the dogush is on the zvicha. Zakramei Simcha. We know that the halacha is, it's a Gemara Masechtas Zvachim Dav Gimel, that although there's something called a Machshava Peiselis when it comes to Kachim, but at the same time, Kachim Mechalel in Kachim, ve'ein Chulin Mechalel in Kachim. The Gemara says, the mina machriba, the lav mina loy machriba. So if somebody brings a carbon and he has a machshava, a different carbon, oilo l'shem shlomim, that's a Machshava Peiselis. But if somebody would be Mechaven, oilo l'shom chulin, being that that's not kachim mechalim kachim, that's the lav mina loy machriba, over there it wouldn't be a problem. Stating that, the Rambam, with his groisa koyach in Hoira, in Hilchas Psuli HaMikdash Perik Tes Vav Aloch Yud Aleph says, HaPesach sheshochtoi b'machsheves shinei Hashem, bein sheshinei shmoi l'shem zevach acher, bein sheshinei l'shem chulin. If somebody shechts a carbon pesach l'shem chulin pasol, shenemar v'amartem zevach pesach l'Hashem. The Rambam says there's one exception to this rule. That's the carbon pesach. If somebody would shecht the carbon pesach and he would have it in mind l'shem chulin, there the halachas would be pasol. How do I know that? Shenemar v'amartem zevach pesach l'Hashem. And the question, says Ramei Simcha, is why is it that the carbon pesach is different? And even in the carbon pesach, the Rambam's lashon is a pesach sheshochtoi. It sounds like it's only the shchit of the carbon pesach. And look at the pasuk. V'amartem zevach pesach Lashem v'lo l'shum chulin. It's learned out from a pasuk in Pesach and a pasuk that talks about the shchita of the Pesach. What's the reason for it? Why would it be that the carbon Pesach would be different, and why within the world of the carbon Pesach would it be dafka the shchita of the carbon Pesach? Says Ramei Simcha. Take a look at what I wrote in my Or Sameach, my pirush on the Rambam right here in Perik Tes Vav in Halach Yud Aleph. And if you take a look at Ramei Simcha over there, he says a davar nifla. He says, what's the svara? Why is it that if somebody has a machshava l'shum chulin, it's not considered a machshava piselas? So Ramei Simcha, it's a pashta zach. He said the reason is because in order for a machshava to passel, the machshava has to be me'inyana, has to have shayches, He says if somebody is going to go ahead and have a machshava that has nothing to do whatsoever with what it is you're doing, the lav mina loy machriba, it's not going to have the ability to have any impact. So it says Ramei Simcha, that's pasha. If somebody would do a kabbalah hilacha zrika, pick your carbon, and you would have in mind l'shem chulin, of course it wouldn't be a machshava piselas, because there's no kabbalah hilacha zrika when it comes to chulin. The only place it would even be shayach to have a machshava l'shem chulin, there's one place in the whole world. That would be shchita. But Ramei Simcha, let's be honest. Shchita's kachim and shchita's chulin, as much as we know shchita lav avodehi, but they're not one and the same. Because shchita's chulin is be'ikr to be mater basal achila, and shchita's kachim is to be mater the basal achila, but it's also to be machshe the dam, to be able to go on the mizbeach. So even by shchita, Ramei Simcha, a machshava l'shum chulin is the lav mina loy macher, but it's not going to be okay. But Ramei Simcha, everybody knows that there's one carbon in the world that's different than all the other carbonas. There's one carbon in the world where the ikr of the carbon is not the avodah sadam. The carbon is the achila, and that's the carbon pesach. And that's why the carbon pesach doesn't say re'echti chayach. And that's why by the carbon pesach, someone that's a zaken or a chayla can't be part of a carbon pesach. And that's why in the sugi vein basar ain't dam, even if you have a kazayis of imur, but if you don't have a kazayis of basar, you can't bring the carbon pesach. And that's why there's something called machshava shaloi l'shum oichlav that you have in psachim that you don't. There's 100 rayas to this. This is a yisoid musar that we spoke about countless times when we learn Masechtas Psachim. But the bottom line is, this is carbon pesach 101, that it's fundamentally different than all the other carbonas. all karbanis, the ikr is the avodas adam. Granted, there's a chelik of it that's achila. But when it comes to Karban Pesach, the ikr is the achila. And that's why the Beis Halevi said that in the Minyan HaMitzvahs, the Rambam never counted any of the achilos of a karban as a separate mitzvah. With the exception of mitzvahs achilos Karban Pesach, it's the sixth mitzvah in the world of the chinuch. It's a special mitzvah in the world of the Rambam. It's because there the achilah is the ikr. I mean that the achilah is the ikr, there it's different. When it comes to the shchita of the Karban Pesach, that shchita is really very similar to shchitas chulin. Because shchitas chulin is coming to be mata bas b'achila, and this, although it's not exclusively coming to be mata bas b'achila, but the ikr is coming to be mata bas b'achila. That's the only place where machshava l'shum chulin has shaykhis to what it is you're doing. That's why the Rambam said v'amartem zevach pesach hu Hashem, that this is the one place in the world where machshava l'shum chulin is actually going to passel the carbon. This is where Meir Simcha says in our Sameach, and he tells you to look at in his shtickle over here in Meshech Chachma Parshas Bay. So Lefia now, Zokra Meir Simcha, that I want to say that it could be during the 40 years that the Yid were in the Midbar, during that Kufa, we know Rabbi Akiva holds that they were allowed to eat bas and echira. The Rambam in the end of Perek Dal Hilfa Shechita paskind like Rabbi Akiva. That means during that Kufa they were allowed to eat bas and echira. Was there no Shechita? Of course there was Shechita. Kachem Shaini. There was Shechita Dafka in the world of Kachem. But during that Kufa, when a Yid went and he did Shechita on a carbon, that Shechita was very unique to Kachem, because there was no such thing as Shechita as related to Chulin. In fact, you weren't allowed to shecht Chulin. The Rambam holds you were chayv kares if you went ahead and you shechted Chulin. If that's the case, during that Kufa, it was a Dava Pasha Zakra Meir Simcha, that if somebody would have gone ahead and he would have shechted the carbon Pesach, and he would have had a mind from Chulin, no sheikhs in the world. What is that? This is a shechita that's unique to Kachem, and you're having in mind, you're shechting an animal, which by the way, you're not even allowed to do, but that would be the equivalent of putting a bullet between its eyes. That zicha would have no shaykhs. If that's the case, during that kufa, it would be a delav mina, or delav mina loy machriba. Simcha. When it says in the Torah, v'achalta moisam oisei b'chipazim pesach ul Hashem, in Perek Yud Beis Pasuk Yud Aleph, it's talking about the Pesach Mitzrayim. Moshe Rabbeinu was told you then how to bring the Pesach Mitzrayim. Pesach Mitzrayim, yeah, Achila has to be Lashem. The Gemara in Nazir, like two people could eat the carbon Pesach. One eats it Lashem, and the other person eats a Lashum Achila Gasa. Oh, but Zizogin v'achaltem moisa b'chipazim Pesach ul Hashem. Say v'amartem zevach Pesach ul Hashem. Shetei zvicha Lashem Hashem. Which the Rambam says is telling you what, the Lashum Chulin is not going to be okay. It doesn't make sense. Because it's the Zelbet L'amina Le'machar, but they have by all the other Kabbalas, they have by Kabbalah Le'lochin Zrik, even by the carbon Pesach. But if you look before Pesach of Zayin, the Pesach is Avayu Allah, so you're going to go there. Yisrael, and you're going to probably say there, Vigada to Levincha, and then you're going to bring the carbon Pesach. Amartem Zevach Pesach ul Hashem. Oh, now already you're living in the Tkufa where there is a halach of Shchita. Being that you're living already in a Tkufa where there's a halach of Shchita, so Kumtachai Shchitas Chulin and Shchitas carbon Pesach is really one and the same. It's the Mina Machriba. Oh, now already, Amartem Zevach Pesach ul Hashem. That's where it's the Shinoi. When the Yiddu in Mitzrayim, there was no Inyan of Shaloi L'Shum Chulin, because there was no Inyan of Shchita. Where's the Inyan of L'Shum Chulin? That's something that was Neschadish when the Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael. Before Kisavayu La'aretz in the Pesach Mitzrayim, it's V'achalta Moisa B'chipazim Pesach ul Hashem. When the Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael, then it's already V'amartem Zevach Pesach ul Hashem. I'll be what the Rambam said in Perek Tesvav Aloch Yud Aleph over here in Hilchas Psuli HaMikdashim. But what emerges from this Remei Simcha is really a Soy Gadol. But what emerges is the Yesod Gadol, and that is that Shechita shifted fundamentally in the world of Rabbi Akiva from when the Yidden were in the Midbar to when the Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael. The definition of Shechita was very different, because when the Yidden were in the Midbar, the only Shechita that you had was a Shechita that was Lashem, Kachem Shaini. But when the Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael, now all of a sudden every Chulin required a Shechita. The Shechita became a very different Shechita. The emes is, if you look around in the Achronim, you'll find this Chiddush Ramei Simcha with a Tosefes Neufech. And that is, we know Shechita Lav Avodah. This is Kachem 101. Why Shechita Lav Avodah? The Tosefes Shas brings in the name of the Ri Meir Leinish, also known as the Ri of Orleans. But the Ri Meir Leinish, one of the Bali Tosefes said, that why is it that Shechita Lav Avodah? It's because the reason you're doing the Shechita is part and parcel because you're going to want to eat the basar. And the only time you can eat the basar is if you do a shchita. If that's the case, there's mokim to say, zogen de gedolei achronim, that the only time you're going to say that shchita is lav avoida, he was only once the Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael. But when the Yidden were in the midbar, before they came into Eretz Yisrael, at that point, shchita was very much yes and avoida. So in terms of understanding the shift and the move in the world of Rabbi Akiva, shchita avoida, shchita lav avoida, that's how fundamental it is. The whole Masechta Zvachim, which is very much miyusir on shchita lav avoida, this is something that was nischadish dafka when they didn't came into Eretz Yisrael. Before they came into Eretz Yisrael, not. That says, I saw in the Sfarim from all the Sinais, Reb David Yoel Weiss, the Baal Megadim Chadashim, Lahavdol Ben Chaim L'Chaim, Rab Zev Wolf-Leiter from Pittsburgh, in Eshaz Shuvas Beis David, and other places, they quote different Mar Mekoimus from different Gedolei Achronim that said this chiddush, that according to Rabbi Akiva, Shchita Lav Avoidi was not true when the Yidden were in the Midbar. Because then the only Shchita he had was Shchitas Kachem. I was malakid who I saw at B'Shem. The Vilna Gaon, the Panim Me'iris, the Baal Panim Me'iris, the Maramash, the Chida, we're telling Tzura Meir Simcha, the Chdushei Arim, Rabbi Fall Hamburger, the Marsham, and Rameir Shapiro, the founder of Daf Yomi, and Shal Shuvas Meir. Some of this is very raid-worthy and kedai to maybe talk about in one of the coming days. But the bottom line is, this is a Yesoid Musad that the Gedolei Achronim and the span everywhere from Vilna to Poland and everything in between, where the Gedolei Achronim all took out this Nakud in the world of Rabbi Akiva again. This is just 4 Meshach Chachmas because why not? And it's so geschmack. But again, there's so much raid that comes out. Sayin Shitas Rabbi Yishmael and Sayin Shitas Rabbi Akiva. We are going to stop here.